after 26 years of working with divorces, and in some way, all divorces are very difficult. There's different aspects of how difficult they are, and the difficulties can fall into different categories. But generally speaking, when two people tear apart a life, and a life gets divided into different pieces, it's always more difficult to deal with pieces than the whole. One of the things I often see in my practice is that one of the parties, and usually, often it's the party who didn't want the divorce, becomes more and more difficult as the divorce progresses. And this is because often they feel like they're being pushed into something that they didn't want, but then they having to compromise what's important to them to satisfy the other person who wanted the divorce and has rejected them in order to achieve the person who's rejecting them's goals, which they have no desire to help at all. So often what we see happening is as the divorce progresses, the engagement between the people get more and more difficult and more challenging, especially to the one who wanted the divorce and wants things to settle, to get over so they can get on with their lives. They often confront a situation where the other person is literally warring all day, every day, becomes very demanding, very unreasonable. And unfortunately, what happens for people is they expect the person to behave in a quote unquote normal way, in a way that they might have experienced them during the marriage or when they were friends or at an earlier time. But somebody who is angry, feeling rejected, going against what they would want for their life, is not going to be a reasonable negotiating partner that's willing to sit down in the mediation process and work things out. So because this is so emotionally draining, and I've seen people who literally have had to give up their jobs to actually cope with the divorcing partner, and sometimes it's the male, sometimes it's a female. It's, you know, it's not, doesn't necessarily have to be gender specific. The first tool that I teach my patients is how to set up a healthy boundary, a boundary that exists between you and the divorce, so that you actually stop talking to your ex-partner as a partner, but actually start treating them in more of a business headspace, so that you're actually looking at the disagreements as business contracts rather than a rejection or a feeling like somebody's out to hurt you, and personalizing what's actually happening. And if nothing else, if you're able to imagine an imaginary window that every time a letter comes in, or there's a meeting or a phone call or a text, you're actually pushing the button that pushes up the imaginary window that sets up a boundary and a barrier between you and the letter or the text or the person, you're then able to answer it as if it doesn't really belong to you. And that's what we're trying to achieve in the beginning with people who become more and more difficult and more conflictual as the divorce goes on. So you're almost treating them as if it's somebody else's divorce. And if you can use that as a little bit of a role model in terms of, I'm going to treat this differently, then it doesn't become as emotionally exhausting and emotionally draining as if you're treating it from a standpoint that this is somebody I love, this is someone who I was married to, this is someone I have children with, so why are they treating me like this? And that's probably the most common question that I get asked all the time. Like, why would my partner treat me like this? And when I help people to understand that divorce brings up in everybody something different. So whatever the triggers are or the emotional feelings that the divorce is bringing up in your ex-partner, they're going to act out on you. So the best thing you can do is remove and detach yourself from that over-emotional engagement, which is then going to help you to be objective and help you to do something different with the information, which is what you're looking for. You're looking for a different type of engagement so that you can do something different with the information. And as soon as you can become more productive, so that you're not as emotionally entangled in the information, your emotional well-being is not going to be as devastated as it is when you are emotionally over-involved. So the first technique is to imagine the glass window between you and the information that you can learn to be far more objective with.